Good afternoon, and welcome to tonight's Democratic primary debate for Indiana State House District 70, which consists of all of Harrison County plus parts of Clark, Floyd, and Washington counties in southern Indiana. I'm Derek Holder, host to Hold 'em Accountable and your moderator for today's discussion. Today's debate is presented by Progressive Indiana Network, an independent media collaborative supporting Indiana-focused progressive journalism, analysis, and commentary. The network provides a shared platform for writers, podcasters, and creators committed to covering state and local politics with independence and accountability. You can learn more at progressiveindiana.net. Primary elections are where the direction of a party is shaped and where voters decide what kind of leadership they are wanting moving forward. Joining us today are three candidates seeking the Democratic nomination: Sarah Blessing, Tamara Persinger Andres, and Jerry Finn. Thank you all for being here. Our goal this afternoon is simple: to provide voters with clear information, thoughtful discussion, and respectful exchange of ideas. Here's how today's debate will work. Each candidate will have time to respond to questions across four key areas: economy, healthcare, education, public safety, and infrastructure. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond. Rebuttals may be offered when appropriate. Later, we'll move into a rapid-fire round called Hold 'em or Fold 'em, and we'll conclude with closing statements. Let's begin. By random choice, Tammy will go first with her opening statement.
Good evening. So glad that everyone could join us this evening for this great event. My name is Tammy Persinger Andrus. The Andrus was added in October when I remarried, so very happy to be here tonight. I am a lifelong resident of Southern Indiana, grew up on a farm here, and now own a small farm again in Harrison County. I've raised two wonderful children, have three grandchildren, and now one on the way, my first granddaughter on the way in August. And I am a retired teacher serving in Clark and Floyd counties for 31 years. I also I started in real estate a little better than 13 years ago. So I'm with the Jeremy Ward team of Ward Realty Services. And I love working with my clients there to help them buy and sell homes. And I also have always been very involved in the community and doing a lot of community service and working in my church. And then also I serve on the St. Elizabeth's board, their advisory board, St. Elizabeth's Catholic Charities, and I'm also on the Southern Indiana Realtors Association board of directors. So being a part of this great community, being a part of the charities that are involved here, also serving or being a member of the IUS board of the Alumni Association, and serving in many other ways has brought me to where I am now, and looking forward to hopefully representing Southern Indiana as a very strong voice in the Indiana House of Representatives.
Sarah, your opening statement, please.
Thanks, Derek. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Blessing. I'm a former fifth grade teacher. I taught fifth grade for 18 years and loved it. And then I quit during the pandemic and sort of was struggling with what was happening with the national politics and with Trump being elected in 2016. I didn't realize I needed to worry about our democracy and the future of America. And so I've kind of been on a mission since 2020 for the last 6 years of how do I save Indiana? What can I do to do my part to make sure my children grow up in Indiana and have a safe place to go to school and to live and to get a job? And so I got involved with the Harrison County Democrats, and they let me be a leader on their team. And then I started running their social media, and I ran for county council in 2022. I'm mostly to take on the parks department and the corruption, and we are still working on that, you all. And then in 2024, for the 2024 election, I was helping to find candidates to run on the local ballot, which is a struggle when your county is 100% Republican to get Democrats to want to run. And I kept trying to find someone to run for state house because it's a heavy gerrymandered district that Republicans easily win. And I could not find anybody. So at the last moment, I jumped in and said, I'm going to run for state house this time, and I'm going to run the next time and keep working the whole time and not stop. And running for state house of representatives is just one thing I do to try to save Indiana. I also have my own media company, Project Next Media, where I am a co-founder with Dr. Tim Peck, who also is running for Congress. And we are trying to stop the fear, hate, and division destroying America and Indiana by working together, by focusing on communities and local. So I've been doing that, and I'm going to keep doing this. This is just one part of the puzzle. How do I work together with everybody else so that we can save this beautiful state? Thank you.
And now, Mr. Finn, for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Jerry Finn. I am a lifelong resident of Southern Indiana. My wife Jill and I have been married for 36 years. We have 4 adult married children and 9 grandchildren. We live on my family's 1839 ancestral farm. I have 2 undergraduate degrees from Indiana University, attending IU Southeast. I have a master's in theological studies degree from St. Meinrad School of Theology. Before my retirement, I worked as an executive director of the Caesars Foundation of Floyd County for nearly 19 years. For 9 years, I owned my own consulting company where I helped nonprofits with strategic planning, board, staff development, that type of work. I also had 12 years of work in Catholic youth ministry, which included Harrison, Clark, and Floyd counties. I had 4 years of nursing. One of my degrees is in nursing, and I worked 4 years at University Hospital with a specialty in emergency medicine, and worked in the emergency department there, as well as at Ireland Army Hospital in Fort Knox. I was in the Indiana National Guard and the Army Reserve for 13 years. Tons of volunteer work over the years. Currently, I'm really involved with the Friends of Town Clock Church in New Albany, the Underground Railroad Church. I give tours telling the story of the Underground Railroad in the metro area. I'm on the board, treasurer, fundraiser, and all. I'm also involved with IU Southeast Board of Advisors. I work with the Education Foundation of Floyd County and also with Origin Park. So it's my focus all my life has been about service, and I'm excited about the opportunity to be a part of this with these 2 wonderful ladies.
Let's begin with an issue that touches nearly every household in District 70, the cost of living and economic security for working families. Many families in Southern Indiana are feeling squeezed by rising costs, from housing and groceries to healthcare and childcare, while wages have not kept pace. For many in District 70, even full-time work is no longer a guarantee of economic stability. At the same time, the state continues to debate its role in addressing these pressures, whether through wages, tax policy, workforce development, or direct support for working families. What specific policies would you support at the State House to improve economic security for working families in District 70? And how would you ensure those policies have real, measurable impact on people's day-to-day lives? Tammy, you're first up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I definitely see how working families in our area are being hurt every single day by the policies that have been put into effect nationally as well as in our state. When you think about healthcare, for example, 10.7% median of the median income of our Hoosiers goes toward our healthcare. And this is a little bit higher than it is in other states in our nation. We have tried to enact bills that will promote more transparency and to get people onto a database where they can actually compare policies. We need to encourage participation, and we need to in those databases, and we also need to encourage competition among the healthcare providers and our insurance companies. Right now, when you look at the economy, 33% of Americans are trying to decide whether they should pay their electric bill, whether they should pay for their medicines that they need to have, whether they should buy the foods that they need for their home and their families. And that's just unbelievable that a third of our Hoosiers are going through that. So the tariffs have been awful. They've been enacted, and it's projected that this year it was $22,000 per family. This next year it's projected at $2,500 per family. So right now, we've got to look at what we can do as far as marginalizing what we're being charged in our taxes, transparency in our healthcare, helping Hoosier families be able to afford what's going on, and they don't have to make these adjustments and choose what to pay for and what not to pay for.
I can go. Derek, you're on mute. Do you want me to go next? Okay, so yeah, I agree with what you said, Tammy. I also just want to expand on that. I just want to thank people like in groups like Hoosier Action and Mad Voters and all of the volunteers and organizations and nonprofits that have come up so that they track the laws that are being passed at the State House, because the State House doesn't do a very good job of explaining the laws that they're passing every year. And because of them, we see the horrors of things that are actually being passed into law in Indiana. And these laws are hurting the majority of Hoosiers. And so I really want to get in to the State House, get some power, work with everybody else, and explain these giant bills that are hundreds of pages long that we don't have time, if we're elected, to even look at before we have to say yes or no on them, are causing massive destruction to Hoosiers because there are loopholes in them. They sound like a good bill. They're like, oh, this sounds like it's going to help us. This is a property tax thing. This can happen. Nope. No, it's not. It's actually going to cost more for the majority of us. And guess what? It's going to profit those in power, big companies, wealthy people, and it's going to profit the people that are voting yes on them. So we have to just stop doing that. I would like to work to try to get single issue bills so that we know what is actually being passed, so that we can stop all this damage that is happening in Indiana right now. Derek, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Jerry, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Families are struggling. There's no doubt about it. And as I listen to families, and especially to my own kids, my own relatives and stuff, it is tough out there for working families. Childcare is just crazy expensive. My own children, a nephew of mine was talking recently about, they've got two little ones, and he said childcare is going to be $25,000 in his budget next year. He would like to buy a house, but it's like, he asked me, how can I buy a house when I'm paying this much in childcare? He and his wife both work, and that's a choice they make. Now, one aspect of my work when I was with the Caesars Foundation that I really enjoyed was with our small business revolving loan program. It was a low interest loan that took a risk that banks weren't willing to take with small businesses. And it was fascinating to listen to entrepreneurs talk about their dreams and what they wanted to do as they grow their business. Now, during the pandemic, the foundation was able to mobilize city and county government, as well as philanthropic organizations, to develop a zero interest loan program, as well as a forgivable loan program. We were within 2 weeks after the pandemic hit, we were able to raise $500,000. Within 30 days, we were able to get checks out to small businesses and community cultural organizations. Those folks would not have been able to survive the pandemic without that kind of aid. It was perfect for me to be able to really jump in and do that. Small businesses, everything we can do to help small businesses and to help our families is going to be a benefit to Indiana.
Agriculture remains a cornerstone of Indiana's economy, especially here in southern Indiana, where family farms are not just businesses, but part of the identity and stability of entire communities. At the same time, many farmers are facing rising input costs for fuel, seed, and fertilizer, along with market uncertainty and increasing pressure from development and changing land use. There are also growing concerns about soil health, water quality, and the long term sustainability of farmland, particularly in areas connected to the Ohio River watershed. In your view, what should the state be doing to better support farmers in the short term while also ensuring that Indiana protects its farmland, natural resources, and agricultural future for the long term? And how would you balance economic growth, including new development, with the need to preserve productive farmland and support family owned operations? Sarah, you're up first on this one.
Thank you. This is such an important question. I'm glad you have it on here. Our district is heavily filled with wonderful family farms, and they are closing. They are selling, and we're getting big subdivisions. They're selling because they can't make a profit. They can't afford to do the farm life and pay their bills and have health insurance. And this is a major issue. And the state house laws have been passed that benefit corporate farmers, giant farmers. We're especially not helping new farmers. We are educating them. At North Harrison, where my 10th grader goes to school, they've got a great farm program. A bunch of these kids are going to go places like Purdue, and they're going to come out and they're going to be ready to start a farm. And our state is not supporting them at all. And it is going to be virtually impossible for them to do that job if we do not step in and help. So we need to pass laws that help our small farmers, our family farmers, and we need to stop giving tax breaks to the giant corporations that aren't even feeding us in this state. I wish we could have produce that we could eat here, that's grown locally, that we could buy here and eat. It would be better for the environment. But because of property tax increases at the state house, it is extremely difficult for farmers to afford their land. There are so many issues with farms. I just talked to my neighbor, Fred Ohl, about this, and we did a show about it for Project Next, and he informed me about a lot of farm issues. So I'm going to keep learning about them. Thank you.
Jerry?
Well, living on the family farm that my two grandsons are living on now, they are the seventh generation. I grew up as a farmer. We earned our living by picking tomatoes and cantaloupes and cabbage and cucumbers and all those things. And what an incredible blessing that was to really be in touch with the land, to see the cycles of the season, to pick the produce there and have it right there. And I agree, we need to get back to where farming is encouraged. Family farms should be a legacy that is passed on from generation to generation. But how do we do that? How do we make sure that they can afford to make a living? You know, we had 40 acres. Grandpa had 80 acres that we farmed, and it was all about fruits and vegetables. But my farm now is farmed mostly by a neighbor of mine. And, you know, he has cattle, he raises pumpkins and stuff like that. The cost of fuel, the cost of equipment is just out of this world. The tariffs that have been put on, you know, they can't sell produce. I remember what it was like as a kid to work all day in the field, pick tomatoes, and then try to sell them. And the amount of money you got was so low, you may as well just dump them out in the field and use them, you know, for compost and stuff. So the state of Indiana really needs to work on that. We have so much that we can give to this country if we really just encourage small farms, family farms, and make sure we enact legislation that's going to be for the benefit of all.
Tammy, your response.
Okay, thank you. Well, having grown up on a small farm myself, and my husband, having grown up on a farm that was about, 200 acres that he farmed when he was young with his family, we definitely, like Jerry, understand the value. And, you know, it broke my heart when my father passed away and my mother decided to sell the farm, that my own children and then eventually my grandchildren did not get to experience that upbringing. It was magical. I loved spending every day out on the farm, and I wasn't in front of the television or anything like that because I was out helping Dad. We farmed corn corn, we had cattle out putting up hay, driving the tractor, doing those things to help. And now I'm back. We just have a small farm here in Harrison County, but a proud owner of about 36 chickens. So we're producing eggs, and I just love being back here again and enjoying nature and the farm life. But many of our family farms in the state of Indiana are suffering. We have $35 billion that is contributed to our economy here in the state of Indiana from our family farms. $35 billion. 53,000 farms still exist today in this state, but we see them dwindling away. And one of the big things that's happening is definitely the big companies that are coming in here and starting these databases, which are sucking up all of the infrastructure. And I know we'll be getting to that in a little bit, but they are taking the energy, they are taking the water, they are taking the life out of our state. And so we have to be looking at what we're doing to address that. Family farms right now, 70% increase in fuel costs to run these tractors and the equipment that they have on family farms. The price of everything has gone up.
Next question. Economic stability is deeply connected to another major challenge facing Hoosier families: access to affordable health care and the ability to make personal medical decisions. Let's turn now to healthcare and reproductive rights. Indiana currently operates the Healthy Indiana Plan, which provides coverage for many low-income residents. Some policymakers have suggested expanding that model or exploring broader public options to reach more Hoosiers. In your view, what role should the state of Indiana play in lowering healthcare costs? Should the Healthy Indiana Plan be expanded to cover more residents, potentially even all Hoosiers? Or should the state pursue other strategies to make healthcare more affordable? Jerry, you're first one to tackle this question.
Thank you. Boy, that is a tough one. But during my time as a nurse in the emergency department at University Hospital, as well as in the military, I really experienced firsthand the importance of good health care, as well as the role that a healthcare provider, offers to patients. There's this sacred trust that happens that must develop between the patient and the healthcare worker for healing to happen effectively. Now, there is no doubt that if we have adequate health care for all of Hoosier families, we are going to be a healthier state. And it's going to cost us less money because we don't have people who are putting off illnesses and getting catastrophic diseases because they can't afford their health care and stuff. The cost of emergency room visits is astronomical now. And if more Hoosiers were effectively covered by insurance, we would just be much better off. I also know in my heart, it's clear to me that women's health is not given the priority that it should be given or the respect that it deserves. Decisions about a woman's reproductive rights should be made between her family, her doctor, her minister, her confidant, or whomever. Government should not be interfering with women's health decisions. That's a personal decision that they need to make.
Tammy, your response.
I totally agree with Jerry, and I'm sure Sarah's going to agree on this one as well. When it comes to women and our healthcare, I've seen it over the years. It's a shame that now I see that I have less of a choice in my own, how I deal with my own body and my health care. My daughter has less of a choice, and eventually my granddaughter will as well if this continues. At the national level, we've been stripped of all of our rights. And even when it comes down to some states wanting to, or have actually enacted policies where even if it's the life of the mother, the life of the child, if that infant is going to be born and their life is not viable, the mother is still forced to go ahead and have that child. And that's cruel. That is just cruel to think about that. But as we look at healthcare in the state of Indiana, there are so many things that can be addressed. As a teacher for 31 years, and I mainly taught in inner city schools, I saw that I had a lot of students that used the Hoosier HealthWise program, and their families did, and they relied on it. And so I think that looking at that and seeing how that could be expanded to teach, to touch more Hoosier families and be able to give them a resource that they can rely on for healthcare. I don't know that it's the end answer, but it's one thing that we can look at and research. Another thing is that we're looking at just the health in general of Hoosier. And what are we doing to promote that? And I think that that's something that goes back to agriculture here, but that also goes back to what we're doing in our schools. And we're not promoting any kind of healthy lifestyle in our schools right now. We're not even allowing, I taught fifth grade as well as Sarah did, and I was in the middle school. We didn't even allow them to have any kind of a recess time in the middle school. A 10-year-old not allowed to have recess. That was just heartbreaking to me. And so I tried to work it in any way I could that they could get some exercise. But we need to promote.
Thank you for your answer. Sarah?
So yes, of course, I really am big on women's health. And I think a woman should be in charge of her own decisions. And yes, doctors should be there and other people if she wants. But a woman, I'm in charge of my own body, not the government. And then also in Harrison County, in our hospital here in Corden, over a year ago, we lost our OBGYN services. So in the entire county, nobody's delivering babies. And this is a big landmass county. Okay. So that's one huge problem. Now we've got a rural hospital because of national changes and state changes. We continue to make it harder for this hospital to stay up and running because not as many people are insured. So when they go to the emergency services and they have to get coverage, they can't pay that bill and the hospital has to pay that bill. And if we keep doing that, this hospital is going to close here in Harrison County. I've talked to people on the hospital board that have been kicked out of the board. And now this hospital is deeply political. It's full of Republicans in a bubble and they don't know the truth. And I am extremely worried about this hospital in our county and our district of having to close. If I get elected, I will do everything I can to change legislation to make universal health care more, we had good coverage in Indiana. We had Indiana health insurance and it's been cut and cut and cut and cut. So I would work to bring that back up to more what it was and maybe even better so that everyone in my district can have health insurance. And then I would try to get OBGYN care back in our rural hospitals.
With Indiana's abortion laws continuing to face legal challenges, many voters are asking where the balance should be between government authority and personal medical decisions. In your view, what role, if any, should the government play in deciding what individuals can do with their own bodies, particularly when it comes to gender affirming care or reproductive health care? Tammy, you're up first.
Thank you. Again, it goes back to healthcare and what we're doing and how we are reacting to things that we hear so many times on the news. And you remember you said something about gender-related healthcare, and that also makes me think about all of the talk that's going on about these students and these young people being so confused about their gender identities and all of these things. And so much of this has been promoted in some of our media streams, and it scares people. And I understand that it scares people, but we need to look deeply into our own families, and we need to be there for our families. We need to rely on our faith and what our faith teaches us. And we also need to rely on the fact that our Hoosier people are good, strong, wise people who can rely on themselves to make the best decisions for themselves. Whether you are a man, a woman, it doesn't matter. You should be able to make decisions for yourself and your own health care. And you should be able to oversee what's going on with your children and their health care and make good decisions for them. The government does not need to step in and make decisions about whether or not a person can get a certain type of health care. The government should not be stepping in and telling schools what they can and can't teach as far as gender identity and how they're structuring that. And the media needs to stop scaring people to think that we have all of this going on in these schools when we really don't. And a lot of our legislators, when they're asked, can you point out a school or an incident where some of these things are happening, they can't do it. They cannot point to an example. So it's a shame that we're forced with this. And so much of our time is being taken up when we need to be adopting policies that help Hoosiers and that help Americans.
Tammy, thank you very much. Sarah, your response.
Thank you. I agree with what Tammy was saying. Thank you for everything you said, Tammy. This is a freedom issue. We should get to live the way we want to live. The trans community is 1% of the population. And the trans people that I know, and I have family, are the most loving, wonderful people. And we have the right particularly has been fear mongering and just placing so much scare tactics that are not true. And a lot of my good people in this county, in this district, believe things that aren't true. So I spend time trying to explain to them, you are being lied to. The things that you're being told about this community is not true. And they're not teaching about gender stuff in school, especially in elementary school. They're not doing that. So that's not true. And when you come after these people, when you come after this community, once you get to them, you go to the next community. We've already seen women's healthcare rights have been taken away. What are they going to do next? So if they're going after their freedoms, they're coming after yours too. So you need to realize when they're trying to take someone else's freedom, they're also coming for yours as well. And so I really want to make that point to everybody because they are told so many fake things about this community that is really being harmed right now. And I'm worried about them. And I just want to say to anybody in the Pride community, I love you and I love you for who you are. And you should get to be who you are.
Jerry, your response.
Well, I agree with the ladies who spoke before me. It makes me sad when I see the vitriol that's out there in our community where we pit one another against others, who might be different or who believe differently than we do. I grew up in a faith community and been still actively engaged in my faith community. But the things I believe are not things that other religions believe. And that's okay. We're all okay. We're all made in the image and likeness of God or the supreme being out there. We should not be afraid to be who we are, period. And Hoosiers are not dumb. Hoosiers are smart. They can see through some of this stuff. But the fact that the media blows all this up, social media has gotten so harmful to people. And we have been given the license to hate by our leaders, whether it's on a state level or a federal level. And that is not what it means to be a patriot, to be an American. We are called to love one another, to take care of each other and do what's best for each other, not promote hate. And anything we can do to make Indiana a more loving state, I'm behind 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare shapes the well-being of families, but education shapes the future of our communities. Let's talk about Indiana schools. Indiana has continued to expand school choice programs, including vouchers and charter schools, while many public school districts, especially in communities like those in District 70, are facing ongoing funding pressures, teacher shortages, and growing classroom needs. Supporters of school choice argue it gives families more options and flexibility. Critics argue that it diverts public dollars away from traditional public schools that serve the majority of students. In your view, what is the appropriate balance between funding public schools and supporting alternatives like vouchers and charter programs? And more specifically, what policies would you prioritize to strengthen public education in District 70, whether that's teachers' pay, classroom resources, infrastructure, or student support services? Sarah, you're first for this question.
This is literally why I ran for State House last time. It is my most passionate thing. I have twins that are in first grade and a son that's in 10th grade, and they all three attend public schools. They attend North Harrison. And just looking at this county, at Harrison County, which is the majority of District 70, we do not have religious or charter schools here in Harrison County. We have public schools, and we are losing millions of dollars. And it's mostly going to like indie schools or charter schools that are virtual, that it goes out of state. So our public tax dollars are going to fund not even our county areas. Okay. So public funds, public tax dollars for schools should go to public schools. I taught at a Catholic school for 18 years and I loved it. And I have a lot of respect for it. Tax dollars should not be going for kids to attend that Catholic school. And it also, we don't set like caps. It's people that are making plenty of money to be able to pay the tuition, and the tuition wasn't that high to attend that school. And then the voucher program comes in. They're like, great, I could pay for it, but now I'm not. I'm going to have my tax dollars, and it's going to hurt the public school that my neighbors go to. And they didn't really even realize that. We didn't realize how it was working, but we realize it now. So we need to stop funding other schools. We need to fund public schools. And then I didn't get into all the resources that we would do, but we really need to just support the schools and kind of back off and dictating what they have to do. There's so many laws hurting the schools that we're requiring them. We need to back off and let the professionals pick things.
Jerry, your response.
Well, it's not a surprise. As I talk to residents in District 70, there's no doubt about how passionate they are about their schools, and especially rural schools. You know, Sarah mentioned District 70 is a large rural area and does not have a lot of private schools. My wife was a counselor and school teacher, you know, till she retired and stuff. I saw firsthand the need that she had. And, you know, as Tammy knows from working with Jill and things, you know, the amount of money that a teacher brings to the table just to do a good job, to be the best teacher that they can be, is crazy. During my time at Caesars Foundation, education was always a priority. I didn't have to be married into it to know how important it was, and I believe it with all my heart. But I know one of the things we did at the Caesars Foundation was we funded full-day kindergarten long before the state was willing to jump in and cover that. Every year we gave $500,000 to scholarships to students to go to post-secondary education or a trade school. And we made sure that it wasn't just getting into school, it was getting through school. My program director and I worked with students, you know, to make sure if they were struggling that we helped them along the way. I mentored students, and I'd see Tammy every week when I was mentoring some of the kids that I did at Hazelwood and stuff. Mentoring is so important for so many kids who need that so much. I was a founding member of the Education Foundation of New Albany Floyd County Schools to give teachers the resources so they didn't have to buy all the stuff themselves. What could they do if they got a $500? What could they do to really make their classroom outstanding? So those types of things are so important. Our schools, there is no doubt that a great education defines our community.
Thank you, Jerry. And Tammy?
Oh boy, this one's in my heart here because my mother actually worked in the reading program at Georgetown Elementary for many, many years. And then I became a teacher. I was a special education teacher for the first 18 years of my 31 years of service. And now my daughter is a special education teacher as well in the Indianapolis, not in IPS, but in the Indianapolis area. And, you know, when we look at everything that's been happening, Jerry mentioned about, you know, teachers bringing in money and bringing in resources and everything. At the beginning of the year, you know, every parent's given that list of things that they need to buy and send into school with their children. And I would go at that time as well, and usually to Walmart or Target and hit all the sales. And typically it ran around $400 or $500 a year that I would start out at the beginning of the year for my classroom, not just my own children, but for my classroom. And I would tend to put those things aside because as the semester turned over right after the holidays, those kids came in and guess what? Santa did not bring them any school supplies. And so they didn't have those things. So I would bring out my stuff, and it was like Christmas all over again with them getting the supplies that they needed. Teacher pay is a huge area of concern. Our districts set and bargain with the pay. There are some states that set teacher pay throughout the entire state. So these things need to be looked at. Family support. What are we doing? Jerry talked about his wife, Jill, being a counselor and providing that family support from our schools into the families, and the families giving support back to us. It's a great task of responsibility. And one of the big things that has happened is that, House Bill 1423 is something that was just signed into law. And I don't think that people understand what's going on with that. And Southern
Thank you,
Indiana.
Tammy.
Oh. I was short on the first two answers. I reclaim my time.
Indiana is seeing growing interest in emerging technologies and new industries, which are often promoted as major economic opportunities. But these shifts also bring new demands from advanced skills and training to long-term workforce development. At the same time, many schools and workforce programs are still trying to meet the needs of today's economy, not necessarily the one that's coming next. What role should K-12 schools, community colleges, and workforce training programs play in preparing students for these emerging industries? And how should the state invest in or reform those systems to ensure that Hoosiers, not just out-of-state companies or investors, benefit from these opportunities? Jerry, you're up first.
Well, first of all, we are incredibly blessed here in Southern Indiana, in Harrison, Floyd, and Clark counties, and Washington as well, having some really good schools. We've got dedicated teachers who are not only listening to what companies need today, but thinking ahead. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that our kids, my grandkids, are being educated for a career that doesn't even exist right now, and trying to juggle that. But I feel like our schools are just doing a great job. I think we need to really focus our education, our training of teachers, that we can come together with businesses and say, okay, as we look to the future, what are the needs out there? What should we be thinking about? How should we change our education system? And I think it was Tammy who said it, because we have these great teachers and these great schools who are overworked, underpaid, we as a state need to look at not just how we show our gratitude for this incredible work that teachers and schools are being asked to do, but how do we make sure that new teachers come in are being trained adequately and feel valued and compensated for the incredible intelligence and wealth that they bring to our table?
Tammy?
Thank you. I after having taught for 31 years, and then before I finished teaching, my teaching career, I started into real estate as my second life, I guess, the second chapter. And it was amazing to see the difference in what was happening in education as opposed to what was happening in the business world. The appreciation, the value that is given to people in the business world, as opposed to the appreciation and the value of what we see in our public schools and even our charter schools and parochial schools as well. And so what we're seeing is that this is a real struggle. And we do have fantastic schools. We do have fantastic teachers, and they should all be applauded. They should all be awarded. So many times these grants and these awards that teachers get, guess what? They actually don't go to the teacher so much as they go to the school. Oh, well, you can buy new books for your classroom. Well, that's great. But, I would like a little bit of a reward for myself. And when I went into real estate, people were taking me out to dinner and taking me to breakfast and buying me coffee and giving me things, in different vendors that I worked with. I was just amazed. I was amazed at how that happened. So going back, we are training our youth in this global economy that we have. And Jerry talked about the careers that we don't even really know about that are going to be on the scene in just a matter of a few years, I believe. And so as we address that global economy and the needs that are there, our teachers and our schools are looking at that. And we need to further that partnership that we have with business so they understand what's coming, what's needed, and support that and support our students to believe that they can do great things as well. And we're fortunate in this area to have Prosser for the students that, maybe going on to college is not their thing.
Thank you very much. Sarah?
Thank you. So when I first started teaching in 2003, Indiana had some of the best standards in the whole country. We also were fully funding public schools. We had a lot of special ed assistants, a lot of extra aides. And since then, every year, they just kind of started taking a little money here, taking a teacher there, and they just kept taking and taking and taking. We have the knowledge. Our teachers are amazing. Our trade schools are great, like Prosser. We have the knowledge. Also, I know just from seeing my son in high school, in this public school, I see them preparing kids, whether they want to do trade school or whether they want to go to college. These teachers are doing the work. The problem is we're taking millions of dollars from our public schools and giving it to other schools, not even in our district, and they are feeling the pain. So we need to stop diverting the millions of dollars worth of funding to other schools and pay them for the public, give it to the public schools. Then we need to get out of the way and stop putting so many extra requirements on our schools. They know what to do. They know how to teach our kids. They know how to prepare them for trade school or for college. We need to give them the resources and able to do this. And I am so frustrated when I talk to my teacher friends at public schools. They are exhausted, they feel underappreciated, and they need support. And I would like to be that support for them. Thanks.
Beyond schools and healthcare, the strength of a community also depends on safe neighborhoods, reliable infrastructure, and environmental stability. Let's turn now to public safety and infrastructure. Public safety is often discussed in terms of policing, but for many communities, it also includes access to mental health services, addiction treatment, stable housing, and trust between residents and the institutions meant to serve them. What comprehensive approach would you take to improve public safety outcomes in District 70? And how would you balance investments between law enforcement, prevention programs, and community-based services? And please remember, you have 90 seconds to respond to these questions. Tammy, you are up.
Thank you. We are very, very fortunate in this district that we have wonderful services. We have a wonderful group of people that are willing to be those first responders and to serve us. And when you call for the police, when you call for fire protection, when you call for emergency services, they are there. And we're very fortunate in that we have that. And I have worked with a lot of police officers and firefighters over the years and see the stress that they have and being able to give them the kudos that they deserve for what they're doing in their job. But it's kind of, like teaching, it's and like preaching, it's kind of a calling for those people that they go into that line of work. And I think that's why they love it, even though sometimes they're not appreciated and they're not paid what they should be paid. But I do think that what we need to do in order to structure and make their lives a little bit better is that we need to look at what services are being provided throughout our district. You mentioned the mental health care component of that. So many times police are being called to deal with people who are struggling with their mental health. Police have not been necessarily trained to deal with that. And so we need to be able to have them know how to identify these people and have the resources available so that these people get the mental health care that we need. Our state is dealing with a huge epidemic of people that are dying from drug overdoses, and many other states are. But being able to get the all of the resources that we need into our area and deal with these things, support our first responders, and make sure that our community is kept safe and doing the things that we need to do to support everyone and get them the help that they
Thank
need.
you, Tammy. Sarah?
Thanks. We can be doing so much more to help our neighbors. Our community is only as safe as those that are struggling the most are doing. When they're not doing well and they're not safe and they're trying to survive and get food, then we get crime. Crime rises. Well, let's help the people that are suffering. That's the moral thing to do, and it's the safer thing for everybody. So addiction is a horrible problem in Harrison County. A lot of people are suffering, and we're arresting the problem, and that does not work at all. I learn a lot from Tony Hostetler, who runs Care Not Cuffs and Hoosier Action, about this, and the great people there. They've taught me so much. He's a recovering addict, and we should be giving them support when they are have the disease of addiction. We should be helping them get out of that disease. We should be helping them find a job. We should not be arresting them and then making it much harder when they get out to get a job. We just made a law in Indiana to make homelessness a crime. That is so beyond horrible. I can't even comprehend it. So what? Somebody can't pay their bills because of all the problems we've been talking about in this debate. So now let's arrest them and make their problems that much more. And when you get arrested, it's very expensive. Well, they already don't have money for a house. So what? We're going to arrest them and make them pay money? We need to be completely changing the way we are supporting people that struggle. And don't even get me started on the prison problem. Yeah.
Jerry?
Well, I can't believe I only have 90 seconds for this, because it is such an issue. First of all, we have some great public servants in our community. I loved working with, whether it was the police or the fire departments or the EMS. And, with the foundation, we were always looking, are there things that we could do to make it better for them? We wanted to make sure the public was safe. We gave a major grant to our schools to make sure that they had the systems in place to keep intruders out and to keep our kids safe. But as the other two have said, the issues of poverty, of addiction, of mental health are things that we just can't arrest our way out of. We have got to look at the source of our problem. The fact that children are struggling because their parents have addiction issues or mental health issues or homeless issues. The number of our kids that are dealing with homelessness is sad. And we need to look at what's the source of the problem and how do we fix that, not throw people in jails. There are so many jails that are making money on arresting our citizens. Our nation has more people in jail than per capita than anybody in the world. We should be able to look in the mirror and say, that's a problem. What in God's name are we going to do about that to solve it?
In many parts of southern Indiana, access to reliable, high-speed internet is still inconsistent or unaffordable, particularly in rural areas of District 70. That impacts everything from education and telehealth to small businesses and workforce opportunities. While the state has made investments to expand broadband, gaps still remain. What specific steps would you support to ensure every household in District 70 has access to reliable and affordable high-speed internet? And what role should the state play versus private providers in closing that gap? Sarah, you're up first.
Thanks. Internet is not a want in 2026. It is a need. Everybody, every family, every household needs high-speed internet. I think we need competition to deliver the fairest price to help everyone get internet. And the government's role, the state government's role should be helping competition, lots of different companies get in and provide internet. I had decent internet until just a little bit ago, and then mainstream finally came through, and now I've got fiber, and my life is better running a media company. We need competition. We can't just have one company doing all of the internet. It's going to be too expensive, but we need to help these companies want to be able to provide internet to rural households, because there are still plenty of neighborhoods here that do not have high-speed internet. And guess what? Our kids didn't have school. My kids didn't have school on Tuesday. We all had to use the internet. And they're like places where there's 5 kids at home and they all need different internet and they can't do it and they have to go to places. So we should also help support our libraries, where libraries provide free internet. So we should bump them up and help them instead of doing what we're doing at the State House right now, which is hurting libraries, and we might be closing the small ones that we have in our county. So we should do all we can to support everyone getting high-speed internet. Thanks.
Jerry?
Well, as Sarah said, it's, it's not just a want, it's a necessity. And I'm real grateful. We just, in the last year or so, got fiber connections, and that has made all the difference in the world. And it's about economics as well. Indiana needs to invest in this. Every family should have access to high-speed internet. Our state has plenty of money that they are keeping, and this should be something where they're investing in our citizens, because it's about job development. My kids, most of them work remotely from home. People just need that. So anything the state of Indiana can do, to loosen the purse strings, to let go of some of that money, and make sure that every household, not just in District 70, but in the entire state of Indiana, it's going to make our state a wealthier place. It's going to make it a place where people will want to move to, because they know they can have the best of our beautiful Indiana countryside and still be able to work remotely and be effective with what they do.
Tammy?
Well, Jerry mentioned the surplus. We have a $50 billion surplus in this state. That's just incredible to me. It's like our governor is controlling that like it's his own wallet, and that's not his own wallet. That's what we have paid in as taxpayers. And so every citizen of this state is entitled to be on internet, to have the infrastructure, which the internet is part of that, but the infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the safety measures that are out there that can take care of us as we're traveling, and the high-speed internet. It's ridiculous. Here we are, 2026, and there are still places in District 70 that do not have this. Their children, if they're out of school for a day, whether it's for a professional development day for the teachers and the kids are doing something at home, or if it's because of ice or whatever, they're staying at home, and they're supposed to be online. And what are they supposed to do if they don't have this? They might have a Chromebook that the school sent home, but if they don't have the ability to get on the internet and do the work that the teacher is trying to do with them that day, that is a totally wasted day, or sometimes days for those kids. So this is something that there's no reason for this. We're in 2026. We are sitting on a stockpile of money in this state that needs to go out to the taxpayers that have paid into that and build our state so that it's something that everybody benefits from here.
Communities along the Ohio River have long faced concerns about water quality, industrial runoff, and the long-term health impacts of pollution, especially in areas with heavy manufacturing and shipping activity. At the same time, the river is a major economic engine for southern Indiana, supporting jobs, industry, and regional growth. Residents are often caught in the middle of that balance. In your view, what role should the state play in protecting natural resources like the Ohio River while still supporting economic development? And where should you draw the line when economic growth and environmental protection come into conflict? Jerry, you're first.
Well, first of all, if we don't take care of our world, it doesn't matter about anything else. It won't matter if there's manufacturing, to be brought into Indiana. We need to take care of our earth first. Again, growing up on this farm, seeing the beauty of nature, I want to make sure my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids see a world as beautiful as I do. The state of Indiana has an obligation to make sure that our state and our nation is sustainable, we're going to be able to pass that on to our children and grandchildren. Yes, there should be regulation on pollution. We should do everything we can to take care of the beauty that we have around us. And the fact that, we're such a red state, the supermajority in our state is Republican and can't see what is happening because of pollution baffles me. I wish things were different.
Tammy, your response.
Well, this is definitely a concern. Indiana is called the crossroads of America, but I really think that crossroads goes right here. Southern Indiana is the crossroads of America. And so we're seeing all of the things that are going through our state. We're seeing the need for better roads and better systems and everything. But yes, our Ohio River gets polluted. There are industries along the Ohio River that pollute into that. And so those regulations are there for a reason. The EPA will set regulations on those, on our waterways, our streams, our rivers, and those things need to be monitored. When local communities see that there is a problem in their local community, if there is a waterway, if there is some type of pollution that is happening, whether it be from industry coming in or any other manner of pollution that's happening, they should be able to get support through the state legislators to be able to address that. There should be grants that are available that can go to local communities to offset that and to address those concerns that we have. Statewide, there need to be regulations, but we also need to look at what's going on in our local communities. And District 70 is unique in that we have a great amount of farmland right here. And at this point in time, we don't have that much great industry right here in these 4 counties that we're involved with, but it's coming. And we need to be prepared for that. And we need to listen to the farmers. We need to listen to the people in this community as to what we need, what we don't want, and where we need to be in 20, 30, 50 years for our kids and grandkids.
Sarah.
It is really disgusting what the elected people, the supermajority, the Republicans at the State House, what they have done to our environment in Indiana. Right now, we're regulated like some of the least in the whole state. Trains full of toxic sludge from across the country come to Indiana to dump it here because of our laws. So first thing we need to do is change those laws so that we are not allowing toxic sludge and terrible things that destroy our waters and our rivers to be allowed to be put here. Okay, then we need to have accountability. And this goes for not just the environment, but everything. We do not have accountability in Indiana right now in all facets of our government. People are doing bad things with their power as Republicans. And since Republicans are in full control, they're allowing those bad things to happen. So not only do we need to change the regulations, but we need to invest in some sort of way to make sure everybody is obeying those laws. And if they don't, we fine them a bunch of money. And then that money gets put into cleaning up our water, cleaning up the toxic things that are being dumped. These data centers, they're really hurting our water. They're sucking up all of our water. And there's just so many problems that are coming because we've lost control of our government at the state. And I am dedicated to work with professionals to figure out how to fix these massive problems. Thanks.
Indiana has aggressively pursued large-scale data center development as part of its economic growth strategy. Supporters point to job creation investment, but critics argue these projects can strain the power grid, consume significant water resources, and potentially drive up utility costs for residents while offering relatively few long-term jobs. In your view, is Indiana moving too quickly in approving data center projects without sufficient safeguards or for local communities? And what specific requirements, if any, should the state impose to ensure these developments do not shift cost onto working families in districts like 70? Tammy, your response.
Right now, we have about 90 of these data centers in the state of Indiana. 90. Now, like I said, in District 70, we're lucky. We do not have any here yet. Right now, there is one that is run by Meta in River Ridge in Jeffersonville. We also have a couple that are in Evansville, and we have one in Columbus. So that's as close as they are to us. But they are looking. They're looking for more opportunities. And when we see that we have land out here that they might be able to take and use and build these huge structures, and I mean, they are huge structures. The data centers, and I said this the other day to someone, 6 months, a year ago, I really didn't know this much about this. And so I've been studying, I've been learning, trying to find out more and more. And what I found out is, for those of us that, maybe weren't aware, this is basically the physical location of the cloud. We hear about all of our data that we're using, and it goes to the cloud and it's stored in the cloud. Well, there has to be a physical place for that. And that's what these data centers are. They are using an unbelievable amount of our water resources to cool these computers and have systems in there that they can cool this facility. And though that water is being taken away from our farmlands, that water is being taken away from the infrastructure of the people that live in that area. They also are zapping a whole lot of the energy in these areas as well. And so they're bringing these data centers in, and we in local government and state government need to say, wait a minute, we've got to look at these and see how they're going to fit into this community and if that community can support it. And that needs to be the priority before allowing any of them to come here into our district.
Sarah?
Thank you. Before we talk about the massive data center problem that Tammy mentioned, and she's right, I want to talk about, why is this happening? Why are data centers popping up all over our state? It's not the data center's fault. It's our elected officials' fault. Our elected officials changed a law where the government used to be in charge of regulating our energy prices. The government used to be regulating and having accountability for our energy companies, and they gave up that right. They gave up that right several years ago and made it so now our energy companies are in charge of raising our bills. Shocker, look at what's happening to our bills everywhere. Everybody's energy bills are going up. Why? Because the data centers that pop up that our government is allowing to happen don't even have to pay up front for their costs to be built. They are charging us, the regular, everyday, hardworking Hoosier. We are paying for those data centers that are taking our water, that are polluting our air and our water and everything. And they're not giving us jobs. They don't make very many jobs. And it is because of things we have done in the past. Now, even our Governor Braun, said he wanted to do something about the data center problem. But because we have a supermajority at the state house and the state senate, they don't even listen to our super MAGA governor. So they did nothing in this last year to pass one single bill to help us with this massive problem that is a bipartisan issue that the majority of us are against. And I'm upset at that. Thanks.
Jerry?
Well, we need to make sure we do everything that we can to ensure that Indiana is doing what it can to bring on the future. We need to look at what's going to be necessary down the road. How are media companies impacting our citizens here in Indiana? I don't think one excludes the other. I think we can be both and if we work smarter and not necessarily perpetuate myths about things. I was talking with a farmer recently, and there were large electric lines going through his property. And I asked him, I said, are you worried about, data centers and all? And he basically shared with me that he was not, as long as we have the policy in place to make sure that we are protecting our citizens. I think we have the capacity to provide the energy. I think Hoosiers are smart enough. Our engineers from Purdue are able to come up with systems to cool those things without using all of our water. But if we make it too easy, if we don't have the regulations in place to do it well, of course they're going to take the easier route. I believe, again, we just need to work smarter. We need to believe in Hoosiers. We need to believe that Indiana needs to move forward with technology, but let's do it correctly and not on the backs of our fellow citizens.
Thank you all. We've spent this time exploring policy in depth, but voters also want clarity. So now we're moving into a segment that viewers of Hold 'em Accountable know all too well. It's called Hold 'em or fold them. I'll present a series of policy ideas, and each of you will respond with either a yes or a no. Let's get started. Sarah, you'll be the first one to answer this. Expanding rural broadband access in underserved areas of District 70, even with significant state investment.
Yes, we should do that.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
increasing funding for addiction treatment and recovery programs in Southern Indiana communities.
Yes.
Jerry,
Absolutely, yes.
Tammy,
Totally. Yes.
expanding workforce training partnerships between local schools, community colleges, and regional employers in District 70. Sarah,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
providing targeted tax incentives to attract new manufacturing jobs to Southern Indiana. Sarah,
Yes. I
Jerry,
need to research that one more.
Probably, if it's done well.
I know.
and Tammy,
The key word is targeted. Yes.
Okay, I already did that one. Creating state-funded incentives to support small family farms and prevent farmland from being sold for large-scale development.
Yes.
Jerry,
Absolutely, yes.
Tammy,
Yes. Yes.
allowing local governments greater control over zoning decisions, including housing and industrial development. Sarah,
Yes. Local control. Yeah.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
increasing state funding for riverfront infrastructure and environmental protections along the Ohio River. Sarah,
Yes.
Yes.
Jerry, Tammy,
Yes.
requiring utility companies to guarantee that large energy users like data centers do not raise rates for residential consumers. Sarah,
Yes. Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy.
Definitely. Yes.
All right, now we're going to shift slightly here. Same format, but now some questions that get more into how you view power, accountability, and decision making. Pausing approval of new large-scale developments, including data centers, until infrastructure and energy capacity catch up. Sarah,
Yes.
Jerry,
That's making an assumption that we don't have the energy capacity or the willingness to do that. I'm kind of lukewarm on that one. Yes, I do agree with it, but I want to make sure that we're not reacting to
Is it
something.
the nuclear module things, the small nuclear things? Because they don't know how to do those yet, but we're paying for it. I think it's about that.
we're talking about the data centers
Mhm.
going in, but there's no infrastructure for them yet. In some areas there are, some areas there aren't. So, Tammy,
Yes. We definitely have to have the infrastructure in place.
requiring elected officials in Indiana to refuse campaign donations from corporations they directly regulate. Sarah,
Yes.
Jerry, Tammy.
Make this hard, Derek.
Allowing voters to decide major statewide issues through ballot referendums or initiatives.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yes, we need that.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes.
Implementing term limits for members of the Indiana General Assembly. Sarah,
Yes, I can go either way on that one.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes.
Thank you. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, and voters have heard how each of you approaches the challenges facing District 70. We'll now move into the closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak directly to the residents of Indiana State House District 70. Jerry, you will go first in this.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. The years of experience that I've had in so many areas here in Southern Indiana, whether it's with my work that I've done, whether it's living on a family farm, the volunteer work that I've been involved in, I think that'll be invaluable as a representative of District 70. All my life, I have been a part of solutions. I've worked with mayors, county councils, county commissioners, city councils of both parties. And I've been able to do that effectively and to navigate that at times when it was not an easy thing to do. I've worked directly with those elected officials, and we were able to put partisan issues aside. We were able to work together for the common good of our community. I'm a doer. I know how to get things done. I know how to work together with people of various backgrounds and political affiliations. I have done it all before, and I can do it again. And thank you for the opportunity to share my commitment to this, what I consider a sacred trust as a candidate for Indiana's House of Representatives here in District 70. We are so blessed with this district and all the gifts that there are in there. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity, and I have great respect for all who want to serve our communities and to do it for the greater good, for the common good of all Hoosier citizens.
Sarah, your closing statement.
Thank you. So I've been trying to solve how do we fix Indiana for 6 years. And I realize now this is a passion of mine, and I'm not giving up regardless of what happens on November 3rd. I am in this for the long haul. As long as I can draw breath, I'm going to work on how can we save Indiana. I love this state. I want to live here the rest of my life. I want my children to grow up here if they want to. So I am asking for your vote on the primary, May 5th. Please pick me, and I'll tell you why. I do not give up. Also, I'm not scared to talk to anybody. I would love to talk to all those Republicans up in Indianapolis, in that state house, get as many of them that will talk to me, that I can listen to, and that I can help persuade and convince them to vote better. Because let's say I get elected. Let's say 6 other Democrats get elected. It's still not enough. We're going to have to convince Republicans at the state house to vote with us. I promise you, I'm not just going to show up there and only talk to the people on my side. I'm going to do the work, get them and say, hey, did you know about this loophole? I know your side is saying this bill is going to help people. Guess what? It's not. It's going to hurt people in this and this and this and this way. You don't believe me? I'll go to the next person. I'll keep going. I'll go back to that same person the next time. Maybe I can get them with this time. I'm not going to give up because humans can be persuaded, and most people want what's good for us. And I believe some of these elected officials think they're passing good things, and they don't realize they're passing things that are doing damage to all of us.
And last but not least, Tammy, your closing statements, please.
Well, again, I want to thank you for this opportunity tonight. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the views of the other 2 wonderful candidates that are running for this office, and I hope that people have learned a lot about how I stand for things as well. And you know, part of how I was brought up and part of how I've tried to live my life is through trusting in God and my faith to make decisions. And I think that that's a basic thing that most Hoosiers rely on, whether it be, you know, our Christian God or whomever you may pray to. Or even if you don't pray, you know, that is your right as a Hoosier. And so we need to rely on those things, and we need to rely on each other. But when we get to the state house, something that I think is so often forgotten, you mentioned about term limits, something that is so often forgotten is that we are there, and it is called the House of Representatives for a reason. We represent the people in District 70 or whichever district you happen to be there for. And so it is important that we can listen to the issues, and important that we can listen to the needs of the people in our district and take those things back to the state house. It is also important that we listen to other people that are in the House of Representatives. Those legislators are there, and they're trying their best as well. I honestly believe that we have good people, but for whatever reason, we've gotten this thing so far apart that we're not even listening to each other anymore. We're not working together. And I've always been a part of a team as an educator. I was a part of a team. In real estate, I'm a part of an excellent team. And we have to work together. We have to listen together. We have to come together and make great decisions for every single Hoosier and represent our district at the State House.
Thank you to all three candidates, Sarah Blessing, Tamara Persinger Andress, and Jerry Finn, for being part of tonight's conversation. Running for public office takes commitment, courage, and a willingness to serve, and that deserves recognition. Tonight, we heard discussions about economic security, healthcare, education, public safety, and the future of communities across southern Indiana. These are abstract issues. They're about whether families can afford to stay here, whether schools have the resources they need, whether healthcare is accessible, and whether communities feel safe, supported, and heard. Primary elections like this one often don't receive the attention they deserve, but they are where the direction of leadership is decided. For voters in District 70, that decision now belongs to you. Take the time to learn, to ask questions, and to engage with the process. Because democracy works best when people show up informed and ready to participate. I want to thank the Progressive Indiana Network for helping make tonight's discussion possible. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Please join us this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern for our next debate, featuring candidates from Indiana State House District 58, Michelle Hennessy Sears and Eric Reingart. I'm Derek Holder, so stay informed, ask questions, and as always, hold them accountable.